From Alabama's News Center, this is the WSFA TV News 6 o'clock report.
Good evening, I'm Bob Howell, and this is the news for January 12th. Governor James has declared a state of emergency because of the worst cold wave in the history of the 20th century in Alabama. Rich Thomas has been following the weather. What can we expect tonight, because we've had a little bit of everything already today?
That's right. The winter storm warning, Bob, will continue for most of the state except for the Mobile Bay area for tonight and for the early hours of tomorrow. Here are some shots that were taken around town today by our staff showing some of the weather we've had today. Tonight, what we can expect is freezing rain over central and south Alabama, while up to 4 inches of snow may fall in the northern quarter of the state. And when we talk about freezing rain, we're talking about liquid precipitation all the way from the cloud till it hits the ground. And that's what we are expecting more of tonight. The freezing rain is far more dangerous than snow because the accumulation of ice expected may become heavy enough to break tree limbs and tear utility lines down. Now, that is the main concern. TV 12's color radar, now scanning from Montgomery, shows that large area of freezing precipitation covering most of Alabama. Only a few areas in central Alabama are precipitation free, and that is only temporary. The rain is moving rapidly towards the east at 40 miles per hour. I should say rain and freezing rain, also sleet and snow, all mixed in that area. Now, Dan Atkinson right now is in the weather office preparing the latest information. We will have a complete update about Alabama's weather at the end of this newscast. Bob?
Thanks very much, Rich. The city of Montgomery began preparing for the weather early this morning when the first warning came from the National Weather Service, and throughout the day, emergency efforts have been coordinated from the fire department's communications command post. Cassandra Taylor tells us about what's happened so far and then talks with Mayor Emery Falmer in a live report from downtown Montgomery.
Montgomery City officials gathered at the city command post early this morning to coordinate their efforts. The police department helped with the closing of roads and bridges and assisted city maintenance crews with sanding iced over bridges and streets. The fire department helped area residents with frozen water pipes.
Normally, if a business or a residence has a water problem due to busted pipes, we try to help them get the water up. But we have just been flooded so much with busted pipes that we have abandoned getting the water. We just cutting the water off and letting the residents take care of their own water problem.
Chief Sutherland says there were quite a few more cold-related problems yesterday than today. Yesterday, there were 6 working fires and 175 calls from residents with water problems. He says today they've only had 60 water-related calls and very few fires and automobile accidents. Chief Sutherland says it looks like area residents are taking the weatherman's advice and staying off the road. Also standing by at the city command post is the Montgomery Civil Defense. Officials are making preparations to open the city's community centers for shelter if needed. Mayor Falmer, you have just returned from a meeting with your city department heads. Is there a need to open the community centers tonight?
We have them all on standby, and if there is a need, we're ready to open them for anyone who needs shelter. At the moment, we have only got them on standby. They're not open, but they're ready.
What are your priorities right now as far as keeping the city open and traffic moving?
Well, we're working and have been working all day on the major thoroughfares, the interstates, both I-85 and 65, the eastern and northern bypass, Southern Boulevard, Atlanta Highway, different ones like that, Day Street, main traffic arteries, and so far we've been able to keep most of them open. There have been icy conditions, but our crews have worked constantly since this morning, putting sand and salt out, and we'll continue to do so throughout tonight.
Has a regular meeting of the Montgomery City Council been canceled tonight?
It has. We could have met, but out of an abundance of caution, did call it off, but probably could have made it. Most of the streets are open.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This is Cassandra Taylor reporting from the city of Montgomery. Bob?
Thanks, Cassandra. Cassandra with that live report with Mayor Emery Falmer. This incredible weather is playing havoc with utilities, transportation services, schools, and businesses across the entire state, and many of them will not be operating tomorrow. Here are 2 reports on what we can expect.
State troopers say most of the major highways between Montgomery and Mobile are open except for I-65 north of Bay Minette. From Montgomery north to Birmingham, all major highways are open, but there is icing of bridges and overpasses on I-65 slowing down traffic. All the major interstates feeding the Birmingham area are now closed, according to troopers. Highway US 280 from Opelika to Dadeville is closed, as well as Highway 431 from Opelika to Lafayette. Road closings stranded a load of bus travelers in Montgomery who were headed to Birmingham. Both Trailways and Greyhound say all their runs have been canceled for tonight. All commercial flights at Montgomery's Danley Field have been canceled as well until 7 o'clock in the morning. The weather has also forced several businesses to close down. The Unaroyal Company asked that their 11 p.m. shift do not report for work, and the Tallahassee Mills will close down operations until 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. School children received an extra holiday today. Some of the major school systems that will not be open tomorrow are Montgomery County, Elmore County, Tallahassee City Schools, Autauga Academy, Coosa County, Russell County, Browns Private School, Barber County, and Autauga County. Other schools that called off operations tomorrow include Conecuh County, Talladega County, Alex City State College, Covington County, South Montgomery Academy, Alabama Christian Academy, Patterson and Trenholm State Technical College, Hooper Academy, and Macon and Lowndes Academy. If the weather continues to worsen, it appears likely there will be few schools, businesses, or major roads open by the morning. Don Phelps, WSFA TV News.
Meanwhile, utility crews are on standby in case of emergency. If the rain keeps falling and temperatures continue to go down, the rain could freeze on tree limbs and cause them to fall onto utility lines.
Rain comes down at about 32 degrees or around that temperature, and it collects on these lines and poles up in the air and builds up ice, and the weight breaks them. And of course, that same ice forms on tree limbs, and the tree limbs break that line. That's a big problem.
Will the lines be dangerous? Should you touch them? Should you stay away from them, or what?
By all means, stay away from them. They could be dead, but there's no indication. Don't assume that they would be. Assume that they're live wires and notify somebody as promptly as possible.
Allen says despite the cold weather, he doesn't expect any power overloads. But this morning there was an overload at South Central Bell.
Had a real heavy volume of calls, and when that happens, you create slow dial tone and other difficulties in getting calls through, because obviously the offices are not engineered for everyone to call at the same time.
Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News.
And the Humane Society of Alabama reminds all pet owners to make sure that dogs and other animals kept outside have shelter tonight. And they're also asking that people put out food like breadcrumbs for birds and other wildlife, and if possible to put a little water in a shallow dish for them too. All their drinking water is frozen over, and they need it desperately. Today's icy weather has also impaired the assembly of the state legislature tonight. Chris Grimshaw will have details coming up next.
I gotta try just as hard as I can. Gotta be the best I can be.
It's important for these kids to be winners, to try to be the best they can. Recently, you've received these Procter & Gamble coupons. For each coupon redeemed at Walmart, 5 cents will be donated to the Special Olympics, dedicated to helping some very special people. Please redeem them now at Walmart. You'll save money with each coupon and help these people compete. Together, we'll all be winners.
Big mackerel, fish, quarter-pounder French fries, icy Coke, baked shakes, sundaes, and apple pies. Kids in the sunny beach days, quarter-pounder French fries, put a smile on that hungry face. Apple pie, sing the song of the taste. You can only find in one place. McDonald's, you deserve a break today at McDonald's. Fish, quarter-pounder French fries, McDonald's, shakes, sundaes, and
Imari porcelains, timeless works of art, delicately trimmed in 22-karat gold. Imari can be yours, free, for saving at First Southern. Imari can be yours free, or at substantial savings, just for opening or adding to a qualified savings or retirement account, or opening a new checking account. Imari can be yours free, only at First Southern.
The Alabama legislature fell victim to the bad weather today. Many of the lawmakers weren't able to get to Montgomery for the opening of the regular session, but as Chris Grimshaw tells us, the governor's State of the State address is still on for 6:30 tonight. Chris?
Bob, the 1982 regular session of the Alabama legislature managed to get underway despite some of the bad weather conditions that kept some of the legislators away. When roll call was taken, there were about 69 of the 105 House members that answered roll call and 26 of the 35 members of the Senate. Of those who were here, there were, at noon when they convened the two houses, they began accepting bills from those who were here. There were 189 bills accepted in the House and 155 in the Senate. There are a number of those bills that could be considered somewhat controversial during this regular session, but it appears that the most controversial issue will be the 1982-83 fiscal budgets. The only budgets that have been introduced so far are Governor James' proposals. They were introduced in the House by Ways and Means Committee Chairman Walter Owens. In a budget briefing earlier this afternoon, reporters were told that the governor's revised budget proposals totaled $432 million for the general fund, about $62 million more than the current year's budget. The governor's recommendation on the Special Education Trust Fund totaled out at about $1.46 billion, about $110 million more than this year. Both budgets include pay raises, 10% for state employees and 14% for teachers and support personnel. There is expected to be a major push by the Alabama Education Association to increase the size of that pay raise, and the Alabama State Employees Association is expected to use that surge to increase its members' proposed pay raises. Universities and colleges are being recommended increases ranging from 6 to nearly 20%. Here in Montgomery, Alabama State University is being offered $8.5 million, and Auburn University at Montgomery $7.3 million. For the first time, legislators will have to deal with the budgets by midway in the session due to the Budget Isolation Act, which is one of Governor James' reform passed earlier this year. Today, one of the most crucial positions in Alabama government was filled. Ron Jones was chosen as the chief examiner for the Department of Examiners of Public Accounts, a somewhat volatile position since that is the department that is charged with auditing all state departments for compliance with state law. That agency has in the past recommended a number of convictions for those violations. Jones has been working in the department for some time and will assume his new duties when and if the Senate decides to confirm him sometime during this regular session. Jones was not a shoo-in for the election or for this position. It was a 6-5 vote over Senator Cordy Taylor. Because of the worsening weather conditions, the House and Senate have called off their scheduled joint session that was scheduled to begin at 6:30 this evening. But Governor James will still make his statewide State of the State address to the people and legislators, and that will be via television. Many of the legislatures have already left the Capitol, hoping to find some safe means home before the weather gets too much worse and the road conditions worsen, and they have left the Capitol for their motels and are trying to avoid the problems. So for that reason, the governor will be making his address from the House, and the number of people who will be here to listen to him in person could be somewhat few compared to past State of the State addresses when there were a number of people here. And because so many people have retired to the security of their home, there is no telling how many people will be here. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
Thanks, Chris. And the State Association of School Boards. The members were in town today listening to House and Senate leaders talk about the future of education funding in the state.
School board officials say Alabama ranks last in the total amount of expenditures allocated to children in grades K through 12. But officials hope to persuade legislators to change that poor ranking. House Speaker Joe McCorkadell told school board members the governor's proposed $1.47 billion education budget includes a 14% pay raise for school support personnel. Board members want a 15% across-the-board raise, but say if lawmakers pass the proposed budget, they'll be grateful. The speaker says the budget isn't without its troubles. He said he'd like to see a budget based on actual rather than anticipated revenues. However, school board members say children in grades K through 12 need a quality education.
In reality, the need of public education is in dire straits at this point. We simply are trying to point out to those of leadership in the House and in the Senate, if possible, that K through 12 needs additional funding to give a more quality education.
Lieutenant Governor George McMillan outlined ways to influence the board members' legislative representatives, including writing letters and visiting lawmakers in person and during committee meetings. McMillan says that's where the greatest impact is felt. Board members are keeping McCorkadell's and McMillan's advice in mind, along with the fact that this is an election year. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
Even as the regular session of the legislature was trying to get underway, there was a strong lobbying effort by a group of students and faculty members from Alabama A&M University in Huntsville. As Tom Foreman tells us, the group showed up at the Capitol today to demand more money.
The group was about 50 strong, members of the faculty and student leaders from Alabama A&M trying to convince legislators that their school is in desperate need of more funding.
We've not come to beg, we've come to demand that which is rightfully ours.
Alabama A&M falls in the district of Representative Robert Albright, who came out of the Capitol to watch the demonstration and say he shares the concern for more university funding.
Level funding for someone who has been under level funded for 50 years is not enough. That's what we need to get on.
Albright says Alabama A&M is one of the most cost-effective universities in the state and has been underfunded for years. Albright says back in 1978, the legislature appropriated $7.5 million in conditional funds for capital improvements at Alabama A&M, but the funds ran short and the university never received the money. Now Albright and university leaders say the money is there and they have a right to it. Without the money, Albright says Alabama A&M can't go on. The university can't offer high enough salaries to draw or retain instructors, and eventually, the continued underfunding could mean closing the doors on the 107-year-old school. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
We'll be back next in sports. Several basketball games have been canceled by tonight's bad weather.
Tremendous markdowns in every department means great savings for you during Gayfer's after inventory clearance and sale. Women's shoes, Amalfi, Pappagallo, Lifestride, and others, 1/2 price. Missy dresses, sizes 6 to 20, petite 4 to 16, 33 to 75% off. Ladies' famous name coordinates, blazers, skirts, pants, sweaters, and blouses, 50 to 75% off. Juniors prep pants, regularly to $20, only $13.99. Save on many other clearance items in every department during Gayfer's after inventory clearance and sale. Montgomery Mall, Eastdale, and Auburn.
A fireplace has an easy, economical way to convert your masonry fireplace into an efficient heating source. The Ashley Fireplace Insert. With the Ashley, your fireplace becomes a thermostatically controlled heating unit. It's easy to install, and it's now on sale at $200 off. The fireplace also has the world's most efficient wood-burning heaters, also by Ashley. The Ashley can heat your entire home and burns for 12 hours or more. It's on sale, too, at $100 off. Hurry to the fireplace for these and hundreds of other energy-saving ideas.
Save up to 50% on pianos, organs, guitars, banjos, and accessories during Forbes Music Annual Warehouse Sale. We're cleaning out the warehouse of all old stock, and you can clean up with unbelievable savings. Even our latest models of pianos and organs are reduced. Store-wide savings from 10 to 50% on pianos, organs, guitars, and all PA equipment. New and used, it's all on sale this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday during the giant warehouse sale at Forbes Music on the Eastern Bypass.
The weather and the sports get together tonight.
Sure do. No basketball games tonight. Probably had to spend the night in the gym if there were some. The Alabama State-Tuskegee game canceled tonight has been reset for January 27th at Dunn Arena on the Alabama State campus. Moving into tomorrow night's round of Southeastern Conference basketball, the Tennessee Vols are the surprise team of the conference so far, even more so after losing their starting backcourt because of academic problems a couple of weeks ago. Tennessee is 4-0. That includes wins over Kentucky and Alabama, though both were in Knoxville. LSU is 3-0 right now, but facing a tough test with Alabama tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa. LSU is only 6-4 overall. Alabama can move into a tie for second in the conference with a win over the Bengals. The 13th ranked Tide is 11-1 on the year so far. Kentucky must be careful at Ole Miss tomorrow night. They are 2-1 right now. Auburn and Georgia rank in the middle of the standings. The Tigers have a chance to improve to 3-2 if they can get past Vanderbilt in Nashville tomorrow night. Vandy, Ole Miss, and Florida have won only once in the conference. Mississippi State is yet to win. When Auburn gets to Vanderbilt tomorrow, they'll find a team in mourning. The girlfriends of 3 Vanderbilt players were in a head-on car collision traveling to Vandy's game with Georgia last Saturday night. 2 of the 3 were killed. A third remains in critical condition. The 3 Vanderbilt players, Al McKinney, Jeff Turner, and Kevin Linder, are doubtful participants against Auburn. The Southwest Conference has never been known as a hotbed of basketball, but that could be changing. There may be 9 Southwest Conference teams with chances for postseason play this year.
College basketball coaches around the country are taking notice that the Southwest Conference may be perhaps the most improved conference in the country. Southwest teams have won almost 75% of their non-conference games, led by top 20 squads Arkansas and Houston. Those two, along with Texas, unbeaten through 10 games, and even Rice, 12-15 last season, has now lifted a few eyebrows with recent wins over San Francisco and North Carolina State. The conference as a whole is more balanced than it has been in years.
Everybody's got a winning record, I think, and I think we're about 850 percentage, and that's just terrific, really. There's no easy game on our schedule or anybody's schedule. Every time you go out, you're going to have to play well or you're going to get beat, and there's going to be a lot of so-called upsets.
The term balance may be a cliche, however appropriate this year in the Southwest Conference.
Our league this year is probably the strongest from top to bottom in the country. We may not have the number 1 or number 2 team, but we have 9 good teams.
From Austin, Steve Mark for NBC News.
The Blue-Gray Girls Basketball Camp compiles a rating survey of girls high school basketball of the state. It lists Johnson High of Huntsville as the number 1 4A team in the state right now. Haleyville is tops in 3A. The Pisgah High School girls team is number 1 in 2A, and no one can argue with that. They're riding a 49-game winning streak. In Class A, Akron is the top-ranked team. Interestingly, all those teams are from North Alabama. As expected, the NCAA membership, controlled by the small schools, overwhelmingly rejected a proposal by the University of Texas to give individual schools control of football television property rights. That vote was expected. Meanwhile, Wichita State called the sanctions imposed on the school by the NCAA unusually harsh, but they don't plan an appeal of their 3-year probation handed down last night. It means the 16th-ranked Shockers can't go to the NCAA tournament this year or the next. St. James School here has announced the hiring of its new head football and coach and athletic director. Tommy Garrett, a 1972 graduate of Troy State, comes to St. James from Cahaba Christian Academy in Centerville. His hiring completes a 2-month search by the school's board of directors. That's it, Bob.
Thanks, Phil. We'll be back in a moment with Dan Atkinson and more on today's bad weather.
Madam, I have a surprise for you.
Surprise me? I who know all.
You can call anywhere, coast to coast, and visit for 20 minutes for only $3.84 or less, tax included.
That's all? Oh. Your late husband, Max, is surprised, too. Max!
Just dial direct anytime Saturday and Sunday till 5. For instance, Chicago is only $3.50.
I'll call my sister. Hurry, she's about to leave. Reach out and touch someone.
Cash in on John Deere money now. Purchase any new 40 Series, 40 to 225 horsepower John Deere tractor and get up to $4,000 in John Deere money. Buy a 110 horsepower 4240 John Deere tractor and get $1,600 in John Deere money. Or a 225 horsepower 8640 John Deere and get $4,000 in John Deere money. Get the John Deere tractor you need and pay no finance charge until June 1st, 1982. But hurry, this offer expires January 30th. At Simmons Tractor Company, Greenville, and Montgomery Tractor Company, Montgomery.
Imari porcelains, timeless works of art, delicately trimmed in 22-karat gold. Imari can be yours, free, for saving at First Southern. Imari can be yours free, or at substantial savings, just for opening or adding to a qualified savings or retirement account, or opening a new checking account. Imari can be yours free, only at First Southern.
Only one thing could be finer than fine traditional men's clothing at Cody's, and that's fine traditional men's clothing on sale at Cody's. It's winter clearance sale time now, and Cody's has reduced its entire inventory up to 50%. That's savings of up to 50% on fine men's suits, all-weather coats, sport coats, slacks, shirts, ties, and more. Be one of the best dressed and save during Cody's winter clearance sale, Old Town Shopping Square.
Dan Atkinson in with more on the weather, and the question is, where did all of this start?
Well, it all started this morning with freezing rain in Alabama's southwestern counties, Bob. Didn't take it long for the area down there to spread into a mixture of freezing rain, sleet, and snow that quickly covered the state, and iced roads, as we've heard, and it's also possibly set the stage for a major ice storm tonight. For that reason, a winter storm warning is in effect for tonight and early tomorrow for all of Alabama except the coastal counties. And if you've forgotten, an ice storm is what results from prolonged freezing rain, which is what we're expecting tonight. Rain freezing on contact with cold surfaces can, in a matter of hours, produce a load of ice heavy enough to bring down large tree limbs and, more importantly, bring down utility lines. Again, most of Alabama should have freezing rain tonight. Hopefully by tomorrow afternoon, temperatures will be warm enough in the southern half of the state for the freezing rain to turn into plain old rain. Mobile may be spared some freezing rain tonight. Most of the snow tonight should be in the northernmost counties where they may get 4 inches or more. In addition, we're under the influence of a storm system. Well, that's what's causing all this. Our troublesome weather is a result of a low-pressure area moving eastward out of Texas, and let's take a look at that on today's satellite view. In addition to the winter storm conditions over the lower Mississippi Valley and the southeast today, snow has been falling from the Intermountain region across the central and southern Rockies through the Central Plains into the northern half of the Mississippi Valley. Here's a look now at TV 12's color radar showing a large area, still a mixture of freezing rain, sleet, and snow, though snow for the most parts in the northern counties. It's moving to the east at about 45 miles per hour. A few areas are temporarily without any precipitation, and the intensities are not quite accurate for now because ice is coating the radar dome out at Danley Field. 6 o'clock temperatures include Birmingham with 28, 26 in Auburn, Opelika, where they've had 3 inches of snow. 32 degrees in Selma and Monroeville, 29 degrees in Troy, Dothan and Enterprise 30, 36 degrees in Mobile. At Montgomery's Danley Field, freezing rain, 2 below zero on the Celsius scale, that's 29 Fahrenheit. Our low this morning 16, today's high was 28, or now 29 since we've climbed since last hour. Winds are from the east at 11 miles per hour, relative humidity 85%. The barometer is rising for the moment. We've had 0.06 of an inch of rain at Danley Field. At 6 this morning, the level of Lake Martin down by 0.3 of a foot from yesterday at the same hour. Lake Jordan's level had dropped by a half foot. Sunrise tomorrow 6:48, setting at 5 o'clock. And the forecast for tonight and early tomorrow, a winter storm warning with freezing rain, which may cause ice storm conditions. Southeasterly winds at 5 to 15 miles per hour with a low tonight in the upper 20s. Wednesday, precipitation changing to rain by afternoon, winds shifting to northerly with a high in the upper 30s. Wednesday night, a 40% chance of some snow as cold air pours in, more cold air pours in, with a low tomorrow night in the mid-20s. And then Thursday, partly cloudy with a high in the upper 30s. Let's hope that forecast holds true by Thursday. That's it, Bob.
Thanks, Dan. We'll be back in a moment. Today's foul weather didn't stop the hanging of gasoliers in the state capitol. We'll tell you what that is in a moment.
Ever think you'd meet a milkman who'd try to sell you a non-dairy creamer?
No.
Well, you have now. Cremora from Borden. It's a non-dairy creamer with a richer, creamier aroma. Sniff the leading brand. Now sniff Cremora.
Cremora does smell creamier.
Now taste your coffee.
Has a delicious creamy taste.
Cremora, a richer, creamier aroma in the jar, and you just can't beat its creamy taste.
I won! I won! Keep this under your hat. I'm running a little numbers racket at Godfather's Pizza. Every card's got a winning combination. You could win fancy cars, trips. I won! Cokes or some of my great grub. And if you win, I'll play you double or nothing, if you got the nerve. I got the nerve! Come on, get in on my numbers racket. But keep a muzzle on it. I don't want no flatfoots nosing around.
Godfather's Pizza you can't refuse.
Battle cold drafts, cold rooms, and save up to 50% on your heating bill with a Care-Ray kerosene heater. Care-Ray heaters are efficient, burn clean, portable, safe, and fast. Save $30 on the Texan, just $149.95. The Tahitian, now $189.95. Or the Survivor 3 that heats, cooks, and has soft low light in case of power failure, now only $199.95. The Hawaiian, only $219.95. And because of Care-Ray quality, they're built to last while you save and save.
Care-Ray heaters on sale now at your nearby All-Pro Auto Parts stores, where you'll also find quality K1 kerosene.
Did you know that you can buy an Alpine car stereo that fits your car for only $168? Unbelievable, you say? Well, watch this. An Alpine Model 7124 with auto reverse, AM/FM stereo radio, locking fast forward and rewind, 12 watts of power, plays metal tapes, and fits your car. You heard me, an Alpine car stereo that fits your car. On sale now at Southern Sounds.
At the Capitol building in downtown Montgomery today, a unique celebration of sorts. It was the official lighting and hanging of 2 gasoliers over the twin spiral staircases at the front lobby of the Capitol building. The 2 custom-made chandeliers were made in New York City and were purchased by the Legislative Wives and Husbands Clubs. They were purchased with proceeds from the group's sale of cookbooks filled with recipes from across the state of Alabama. A number of legislative wives showed up for the official dedication, which was under the direction of club president Marilyn Waggoner. Lillian White and Betty McCorkadale also were co-chairmen. As we said, Governor Fob James is standing by in the Alabama House of Representatives for his annual State of the State address. Chris Grimshaw of our staff is standing by live.
The 1982 regular session of the Alabama legislature got off earlier today to a good start, but the cold weather conditions forced them to postpone the plans for a scheduled joint session of the Alabama legislature tonight to listen to Governor James's address, so that those legislators, those who needed to get on to their homes or to their motels, wherever before the road conditions worsened, could do so. The governor will still provide his State of the State address to those legislators via television and to those who've been able to stay here at the Capitol to listen to him in person. And now Governor James's State of the State address.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to present to you tonight Governor of the State of Alabama, the Honorable Fob James.
Let's go to work time. Thank you. My fellow Alabamians, due to this weather, many legislators could not get to Montgomery, and we don't have a quorum. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to come into your home, discuss issues that affect your lives and the lives of your children. Glad to have some of the legislators with us, and I urge those who will be coming down tomorrow, as well as all citizens traveling our roads, to be very careful and don't drive at all unless it's absolutely necessary. Let me remind you out there across the state, our Civil Defense, National Guard, and state troopers are on alert, so don't hesitate to go to your National Guard armory if you're cold, or call your county Civil Defense office if you need help of any kind. Tonight, there are 32,362 fellow citizens out of work in Jefferson County. 7,397 out of work in Etowah County, and 8,120 out of work in Lauderdale and Corbett counties. Across the state, there's an unemployment rate of 11.4%, the second highest in America. The hard question that must be answered is who caused it. I believe we have been victims of a federal government that failed to discipline itself, that ran up a tremendous deficit, and that made up the difference by printing bogus dollars. This caused high inflation. Our paychecks lost value. Our retirement checks lost value. That it happened in 1 year, there would have been total chaos. But it happened gradually over 2 decades. There's only half of it. Has the federal Congress called for a constitutional amendment mandating a balanced budget to remedy inflation? No. Has the federal Congress called for a return to the traditional gold standard that served us so well for so long? No. For 2 decades, we have been marched to the guillotine of high interest rates under the subterfuge of stopping inflation. For 20 years, until 1981, the leaders of our national government never questioned the basket case economic policy of those who imposed high interest rates to curb inflation. High interest rates that wreck our payrolls, our paychecks, and our job markets. Our people have suffered. The international banking community and a few others profit billions without hitting a lick at a snake or taking any capital risk. We are left with runaway inflation, high unemployment, high interest rates, and a $1 trillion deficit to show for 20 years of selfish, special interest politics in Washington, D.C. We changed our national direction 180 degrees 1 year ago. But economic vitality and stability will not come quickly or easily. No one man can repair in 1 or 2 years a nation that has had its treasury ramsacked for 20 years. So what can we do as a state government to help our own unemployed, our fellow Alabamians that are jobless tonight? We are a state heavy in plants, producing tires, steel, and parts for the automobile industry. This great industry that 10 years ago was the strongest in the world is now struggling to get its house in order to survive in a world market. In the meantime, we can help those laid off to find new jobs, and if additional training is necessary, provide such training. This is being done. And if any company wants to reconsider a decision to close a plant, we can make sure every alternative is explored. This too is being done, as was the case with the United States Steel Company in Birmingham. Then we must continue to seek new industry to give Alabama a more diversified industrial base. Our home building industry, a great industry that touches all, has almost come to a standstill because of high interest rates. The good work of this legislature in the last special session has set the stage for major improvement this year. In December, $100 million at between 13% and 14% interest was made available as mortgage money for homeowners and home builders. There will be an additional $200 million coming this year, and the impact on employment will be tremendous. Not only for direct construction jobs that will run into thousands, but for men and women that work in industries providing supplies, materials, home furnishings, real estate services, financial and insurance services, and transportation to the home building industry. In terms of jobs for Alabamians, it will run into the tens of thousands, all in the private sector. In the last session, the legislature, we did not stop with making provisions to revitalize the home building industry. We also adopted a plan to start over $500 million in public works construction this year. Schoolhouses and highways, 6 major bridges, in each case a thing of real value that people can use for years to come. These projects will create over 12,000 direct construction jobs and tens of thousands of jobs in support industries and businesses. Although this legislature overwhelmingly passed my plan for utilization of our one-time oil bonus money, you, the people, will have the final say by popular vote on Tuesday, March 2nd, 49 days from tonight. It will be listed as amendments number 1, number 2, and number 3 on the ballot. And I respectfully request you vote yes, and let's get tens of thousands of fellow Alabamians working again now. There are those who say my plan to use the oil money to purchase real value for the people and create real jobs is unsound. Well, I say it is financially the soundest thing state government has ever put before the people of Alabama. I urge you, the people, to go to the polls on March 2nd and vote yes on Amendments 1, 2, and 3 and provide real jobs for tens of thousands of Alabama citizens while preserving intact our $460 million principle for future generations to use. I'm discussing unemployment tonight because I think it essential we understand what has caused it. I am sensitive to the needs of the jobless, and I feel the hardship and suffering of many fellow citizens who are out of work today in Alabama. I want to offer real hope and expectation to jobless Alabamians for real jobs as a result of what this legislature and this administration have already initiated for the next 3 years. during which time I firmly hope and believe our national economy will be restored to one of stability and vitality, and our automotive industry will have turned the corner. Now to the business at hand. This session is very special, as this is the first time we are working under the isolation procedure. The reasons for isolating the budgets are to allow each legislator, the public and the press, more than ample opportunity to know how every tax dollar is being spent, to have time to question each expenditure, to understand all elements of cost, and to make it difficult not to pass the budgets during the regular session. My job is to deliver quality public services at a fair price to the taxpayers of Alabama. Let me say now, the taxpayers send more than enough money to Montgomery to run state government and run it well. State employees have greatly improved many departments during the last 3 years. The Highway Department is one example. Medicaid another, prisons another, mental health another, the National Guard another, and the list goes on and on. Our school children have shown marked improvement on competency test scores, thanks to thousands of dedicated teachers. But the facts clearly show we still have some areas where our costs are out of line, bad out of line. And it can only be brought back into line by acts of this legislature. On salaries for state employees, we are proposing the adoption of a reclassification plan that is long overdue. It is performance-oriented. It cleans up the mess in which our job classification system has fallen since its inception 30 years ago. It hasn't been looked at in 30 years. It is fair to employees and fair to taxpayers. It offers state employees far greater opportunities for advancement. It deals fairly with promotions, dismissals, salaries, and working conditions. It is a backbone of our merit system. It is a vital step toward getting our cost in line. Dr. Hal Ballard, our new personnel director, stands ready to give this legislature every detail of our proposed reclassification plan. With your approval, with this legislator's approval, this plan can be enacted effective May 1, 1982. I will respectfully respect that this legislature will act promptly and go into great detail on this reclassification plan. Now, the cost of government is greatly affected by the cost of fringe benefits. Although these costs are hidden, they have to be paid just as wages. The retirement systems and Social Security takes up over 15% of every dollar sent to Alabama. Sent to Montgomery by Alabamians that pay taxes, some $2 billion. This is out of line. This is unfair to taxpayers and unfair to public employees because it creates a cost too high for the state to pay each year to ensure the integrity of the retirement plan, to ensure that when a state employee or teacher retires, their money will be waiting for them. This situation was not created by state employees and teachers. It was created by numerous acts of prior legislatures. This was done in spite of warnings from many quarters. It is up to us to correct it. I make this proposal to strengthen our retirement plan. Our formula is now 2.0125, the highest of all 50 states in the nation. This means that upon retirement, an employee of 30 years will get 30 times 2.0125, or 60% of the average salary for the top 3 years. Under these conditions, when an employee reaches 62 or 65 and Social Security is earned, that employee is drawing 20 to 30% more take-home pay after retiring than while working. I want to repeat that. The employee is then drawing 20 to 30% more take-home pay after retiring than while working. My proposal provides that all employees who went to work prior to October 1, 1982 will be grandfathered in on all retirement benefits earned as of October 1, 1982. After October 1, 1982, for current employees, I propose an option with two choices. The first choice would be to continue with the formula of 2.0125, with the employee contributing 6% rather than 5%. This should be very attractive to our old employees. The other choice would be for current employees to change to a new formula of 1.6, with the employee contributing 5% to the plan. This would be very attractive to our younger employees. All new employees that come to work after October 1, 1982 would have a formula of 1.6 and an employee contribution of 5%, which, including Social Security, would give new employees upon retirement a take-home pay 100% or more of their average salary for the top 3 years. The state of Alabama now pays for 2 retirement plans for faculty in our 4-year universities, the state retirement and the TIA retirement plans. We're the only state in America that does that. I recommend we make this optional. In other words, the employee may choose one or the other, but not both. These positive revisions provide excellent retirement benefits, and it puts our retirement systems on solid ground for today and for the future, and it gets our cost in line. There are several other modifications that need to be made relative to holidays. Accumulated sick leave is severance pay upon retirement. Sick leave taken as severance pay for retirement. And vacation schedules. The state needs to consider adding some fringe benefits, such as life insurance and disability insurance. I have proposed the necessary changes to give state employees a balanced, highly competitive package of fringe benefits. Each fringe benefit was created by acts of prior legislatures, and it will take an act of this legislature to get our cost in line. I am recommending a 14% raise for teachers and support personnel, which cost $85.9 million. This leaves little or no reserve in anybody's education budget for contingencies or a shortfall in projected revenue. I am recommending a 10% raise for state employees, which costs $36.4 million. This leaves little or no reserve in anybody's general fund budget for contingencies or a shortfall in projected revenue. However, if the legislature passes my proposals for positive revisions on fringe benefits, they will create a $27.4 million reserve in the education budget and a $10 million reserve in the general fund. I propose part of these savings be used to provide a raise of 6% for retired teachers and retired state employees. This will leave a $21.4 million reserve in the education budget and an $8.2 million reserve in the general fund. You will not have proration. I repeat, you will not have proration. It is right to maintain a reserve, and it is right to position our retirement funds on solid ground once and for all. When the legislature passes my proposed reforms, the price of government, the state of Alabama, to the taxpayers of Alabama will be in line, not before. You pass these proposals, you've set forward a reclassification system that will stand the test of time. Your fringe benefits are in order. We are in line. Let me speak now directly to teachers and state employees. When I came here 3 years ago, things were fairly quiet for about 6 months, and I was looking and listening. Not talking much, but just looking and listening. And you know what I found? I found a moss-backed, ugly, mean bureaucracy that didn't care about the taxpayers, about the school children, about you, about poor people, but only wanted to use you and state government, from the highway department to the building commission to certain elements of education, for what they could get out of it. Nepotism, cronyism, and buddyism were rampant. I found a big bully that was a system itself. I wasn't a politician, but I knew better than most how to handle a bully. So I quietly walked up and I hit that bully in the mouth as hard as I could. And I drew blood, lots of it. And the bully hollered. Well, I've kept body punching ever since. And the bully keeps hollering. The bully hollered that the governor was destroying the retirement systems. That is a lie. The truth is the governor is saving the retirement systems. The bully hollered that the governor is against state employees. That's another lie. Sure, I want an honest day's pay for an honest day's work, but can one state employee out of 28,000 name one time during the last 3 years that cronyism or political influence was imposed on his or her work? Not one time. I placed more merit system workers as department heads than any governor in Alabama history, and I'm proud of every one of them. I started the war on illiteracy, and the bully hollered the governor is sending teams of bureaucrats out to the schools and paying them $40,000 each. That was the biggest lie ever told. You know the truth today. There were 6 teams comprised of 5 or 6 classroom teachers of long standing, earning the same as any other teacher, with one thought in mind: to help. And God knows we've got some schools that need help. The bully still hollers, but the bully grows weaker each day. If this legislature passes my reform proposals, this bureaucratic bully of lies, distortions, nepotism, inefficiency, misrepresentations, cronyisms, and special interests will be dead and buried for a long, long time. The moral of this is know the facts. Get the truth. It will set you free. My second reform proposal is designed to change the mission, authority, and the name of ACE, Alabama Commission on Higher Education. Why? So we can get this legislature and your governor a handle on the cost of 2-year colleges and 4-year colleges and universities. I remind you that there is a vacuum of fact, an absence of role and scope, a total lack of accountability and program control through all elements of higher education. Until each of these deficiencies is remedied, raw politics will prevail as a key ingredient of how the tax dollars are used in 2-year colleges and 4-year colleges and universities. The people that suffer from these deficiencies are the students, the faculty, and the taxpayers. I respectfully request that this legislature pass this reform measure. My third reform measure has to do with the ultimate responsibility of government to protect its citizens. Every child, every woman, every man, against the ravages of crime. Some give lip service to this responsibility. I say action is all that counts. Major state penitentiaries are under construction on accelerated schedules. That is action. Action made possible by the good work of this legislature. Now it is time to correct in a sane, sensible manner those laws on our books that tilt the scales of justice toward the criminal at the expense of the blood and the belongings of the innocent and the victims. It is time to correct a system of justice that is soft on white-collar crime. It's time to recognize that our penal system must rehabilitate and turn back into society, sometimes under probation or parole, those inmates that are reformed and deserving and have paid their debt to society. But above all, we must keep locked up those criminals who are dangerous and who have not paid their debt to society. Some 2 months ago, I appointed a Governor's Commission on Crime, made up of outstanding citizens from every walk of life, with Judge Joe Phelps as chairman. This commission has held hearings all over the state, heard testimony from citizens, judges, victims, law enforcement personnel, youth services, social workers, and all who are in contact with crime in our society. They made 32 recommendations, which comprise the legislation I am proposing to make equal justice for all a reality and enable government to meet its fundamental responsibility of protecting the innocent. To Judge Joe Phelps, the chairman, members of the commission, and all who testified, I say thank you for a job well done. With all my heart, I believe these 3 reform proposals are solidly in the best interest of the taxpayers, the children, the innocent law-abiding citizens of Alabama, and the public employees of Alabama. Now, I want to go into every home and look every citizen in this state right in the eye. And I would ask every citizen who believes these reforms are right and long overdue to call or write your legislator and encourage him or her to pass every reform in record time. And I'm going to ask more of you than that. Keep up with this session. Come down to Montgomery and watch us in action. The special interest will be here loud and clear. How about you, Mr. Citizen, Mrs. Taxpayer? You pay the bills. You have a duty that no one else but you can do. That is, make absolutely sure your governor and your legislator know your views. And then make sure you know what we do. And now to speak directly to my friends that serve in the House and the Senate. On many occasions I have said that this legislature has a mark of greatness on it. I testified in Washington last Friday that I believe the federal government, in sending money back to the states, should make one requirement only, that not one dime could be spent until appropriated by the state legislature. Far and wide, I have reminded people that the state legislature is a basic governmental body of this country. It is the essence of the rights of states. I have pointed out that not too many decades have passed since the State House elected our 2 U.S. senators. I have pointed out that every single element of Alabama citizenship is represented right here. I absolutely refuse to usurp the prerogative of the Alabama House and Senate to organize themselves. I have stood by that principle without flinching. There are those, and they are many, that say this legislature will quit the field of responsible government in the fourth quarter. I say they are dead wrong. I believe this legislature will be even more responsible in the fourth quarter. I leave these reform proposals in your hands. And as I said in the last special session, I leave them in good hands. This legislature has been faced with greater challenges than any in memory, and has met those challenges imposed on us by courts, by the economy, and by the demands for legislative change. If you finish the job in this final regular session, and I believe you will, history will record the work of this group of legislators as the men and women who, by their actions, moved Alabama forward to a new day of greatness. I thank you for allowing me into your homes tonight. God bless you, and good night.
You've been watching Governor Fob James' State of the State address live from the Capitol building in Montgomery, Alabama. We'll have more on that speech tonight. On tonight's 10 o'clock news, we'll be joining NBC in progress immediately following station identification.
Courtesy Ford has no choice. The factory says all 81s must go right now. So we're offering a $500 cash rebate and 10,000 green stamps on all 81 Ford and Isuzu cars and trucks. No one can offer the selection of 81 cars and trucks we can. Get a $500 rebate, 10,000 green stamps, and an 81 Escort for as little as $149.98 per month. The factory demands it. All 81s must go. Get the best deal in Alabama, plus a $500 cash rebate at Courtesy Ford, your Ford, BMW, Isuzu dealer.
This year, there are 47 different forms and schedules used in filing income taxes. 47. Using the wrong form or omitting one could cost you money or cause an IRS inquiry. I'm Henry Block with number 6 of my 17 reasons why H&R Block should prepare your taxes. Our tax preparers are trained to know every form and how to use each of them to your advantage.
H&R Block. 17 reasons, one smart decision.
WSFA Television, Montgomery.
She do it? Not a hair out of place. The difference is mink. How does she do it? Her hair looks as soft and silky as her mink.
The difference is mink.
Introducing Mink Difference. It's different from any other hairspray. It puts a silky hold on your hair because it's enriched with precious mink oil in every drop. So your hair feels soft and silky, like mink.
But it really keeps you in style.
New Mink Difference.
Okay, who's hungry out there?
Aren't you hungry? Yeah! Aren't you hungry for Burger King now?
Can't you taste that sizzling Whopper or chicken crisp